Millionaire fired 11 nannies in 1 week, but what the black cleaning lady did. Brandon Mitchell paced back and forth across the room, his hair disheveled and his tie hanging loose around his neck. The cries of the twins had been echoing through the mansion for 3 hours straight, and the 11th nanny had just quit, claiming she had never seen babies so difficult to handle. "Mr. Mitchell, I'm sorry, but I can't do this anymore. They won't stop crying. They won't take the bottle. They won't sleep," said the woman, gathering her things hurriedly. "I've tried every method I learned in college, but nothing works." Brandon ran his hand over his face, feeling the weight of 40 years of age and 3 months of widowerhood. Ever since Jessica died in childbirth, his life had become a never-ending nightmare. The babies were born premature, and now, at 2 months old, they seemed inconsolable. "Another one," he murmured to himself, watching the door close behind the former employee. From the hallway, Dorothy Williams watched the scene in silence. At 52, she had been cleaning that house for 4 years, always discreet, always respectful. Her black hair was tucked under a navy blue head wrap that matched her uniform, and her calloused hands held the bucket of cleaning supplies firmly. She knew that house better than anyone. She had witnessed the joy of Brandon and Jessica when they discovered the twin pregnancy, then the worry over the complications, and finally the tragedy that turned that home into a dark and silent place, except for the constant crying of little Ethan and Nathan. The cries from the nursery grew louder, and Brandon ran up the stairs, desperation written on his face. Dorothy watched him go, her heart tightening. She herself was a mother of 4, all grown now, and a grandmother of 6 grandchildren. She recognized something in those babies' cries that apparently no one else could identify. The businessman entered the nursery and found the twins red from crying, squirming in the imported double crib that had cost more than an economy car. The night nurse, hired temporarily, shook her head in dismay. "Mr. Brandon, I've tried everything. They're clean. It's not hunger, it's not colic. They just won't stop," she said, visibly exhausted. "Maybe we should call the pediatrician again," Brandon suggested, picking up Ethan. The baby struggled even more, his cries intensifying. Dorothy, who was wiping down the hallway near the nursery, stopped when she heard the conversation. She knew it wasn't her place to interfere, but there was something about those babies' cries that bothered her deeply. It wasn't normal, she could feel it. During her years of experience with children, Dorothy learned that babies cry for specific reasons: hunger, sleepiness, discomfort, pain, fear. But those cries had something different, something she recognized but couldn't immediately name. "Mrs. Dorothy," called Brandon, appearing at the nursery door. "Could you please call the nanny agency? I need someone urgently for tomorrow." "Yes, sir," she replied softly, watching out of the corner of her eye as the babies remained agitated, even in the nurse's arms. That night, after everyone in the house had gone to bed, Dorothy remained awake in her small room at the back of the property. The cries continued to echo through the house, and she knew Brandon wasn't getting any rest. Through the window, she could see the light on in the nursery, a sign that the chaos continued. Around 3 in the morning, she couldn't take it anymore. She got up, put on her robe, and walked silently through the halls of the house. She knew every floorboard, every piece of furniture, every corner of that residence. She could move without making a sound. Approaching the twins' room, she found Brandon walking down the hallway, his hair even more disheveled, an expression of complete exhaustion on his face. The nurse had asked to leave early, claiming she couldn't handle the situation. "Mr. Mitchell?" she whispered, making him turn around in surprise. "Dorothy, what are you doing awake?" "The boys won't let anyone sleep, that's for sure," she replied kindly. "Shouldn't you try to get some rest?" Brandon let out a bitter laugh. "Rest? With this noise? I'm seriously considering admitting them to the hospital. Maybe they have some problem the doctors couldn't identify." Dorothy hesitated for a moment. She knew she was about to overstep the boundaries of her position in the house, but something stronger than prudence drove her. "Mr. Mitchell, if I may, could I take a look at the boys?" He stared at her for a few seconds, surprised by the request. Dorothy had never offered to do anything beyond her cleaning duties. "I don't know if it's appropriate, Dorothy. I mean, you don't have professional experience with babies." "I have a mother's experience, sir, and a grandmother's. I raised 4 children alone. and help care for 6 grandchildren. Brandon pondered. He was so desperate that any help seemed welcome, even from his cleaning lady. All right, but just for a few minutes. They entered the room, and immediately Dorothy went to the cribs. Ethan was on the right side, squirming and crying intensely. Nathan on the left cried differently, more sharply. Dear listener, if you are enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we are just starting out, now continuing. Dorothy observed the babies for a few moments, then reached her hands toward Ethan. Brandon was about to protest, but she had already picked up the boy with gentle and secure movements. To the surprise of both, Ethan's crying immediately diminished. It didn't stop completely, but it reduced significantly. Dorothy began to hum a soft song, a melody she used to sing to her own children when they were little. So how did you do that? Brandon asked, incredulous. It's not over yet, Mr. Mitchell. This one is fussy, but the main problem is his little brother, she said, gently rocking Ethan as she moved to Nathan's crib. With Nathan, it was different. When Dorothy leaned over him, the baby stopped crying instantly, as if recognizing something familiar. She didn't pick him up immediately, just kept humming softly, with one hand lightly touching the child's chest. I can't believe what I'm seeing, murmured Brandon. Mr. Mitchell, these boys are missing something that isn't food or sleep, Dorothy explained, still humming. They feel the pain you feel. They feel they've lost their mother, even though they're so small. Brandon felt tears welling in his eyes. It was the first time someone had put into words what he suspected, but didn't want to admit. Besides, continued Dorothy, this one, Nathan, has a little tummy trouble. See how he pulls his little legs up. And Ethan, poor thing, has a stuffy nose. That's why they cried differently. How do you know this? Experience, sir. When you have children, you learn to recognize every type of cry, every movement. These children aren't sick. They need specialized attention from someone who understands their specific needs. Brandon watched, fascinated, as Dorothy managed to keep both babies calm, alternating between soft lullabies and gentle touches. For the first time in weeks, the room was silent, except for the cleaning lady's melodious voice. Dorothy, how do you do this? She sighed, her eyes filling with an old sadness. Mr. Brandon, I lost my first child when he was only 4 months old. I learned through pain to recognize when a baby needs special care. These two need to feel that they are loved, that they are wanted, despite the pain the whole house feels. The revelation left Brandon in silence. He had never thought about Dorothy's personal life, never imagined she could have gone through a tragedy similar to his. I'm sorry, I didn't know. We don't talk about these things, do we, sir? Everyone carries their pain as best they can. But these children, they feel everything. They feel when they're in a sad environment, when the people taking care of them are scared or nervous. The babies were finally sleeping, Nathan in the crib and Ethan still in Dorothy's arms. Brandon didn't know what to say or do. Part of him wanted to offer her a job as a nanny, but another part hesitated due to social conventions. Dorothy, would it be possible... wouldn't you like to... Mr. Brandon, she gently interrupted him, I understand what you want to ask, but I cannot. It is not my position here in the house. Besides, you need someone qualified, with certificates, references. But you managed to calm them when no one else could. It was just this once, sir. Luck, perhaps? Brandon knew it hadn't been luck, but he respected her position. Dorothy carefully placed Ethan in the crib, and both left the room quietly. Dorothy, I'm very grateful for what you did tonight. No need to thank me, Mr. Brandon. I just hope you find someone who understands these boys as they deserve. The next morning, Brandon hired another nanny, the 12th one. Christine Anderson had an impeccable resume, a degree in education, a specialization in neonatal care, and excellent references. She arrived promptly at 8 in the morning, wearing an impeccable uniform and carrying a briefcase full of professional equipment. Mr. Mitchell, I'm sure we'll be able to establish a proper routine for the babies, she said, examining the twins' room. My method is based on modern scientific techniques, no outdated practices. Brandon quickly explained the difficulties he had faced with the previous nannies, omitting the episode from the night before with Dorothy. I understand perfectly, Christine replied confidently. Babies need discipline from an early age, strict schedules, appropriate techniques, a controlled environment. During the first days, Christine implemented her methodology rigorously. Fixed feeding times, determined sleep periods, behavioral conditioning techniques. Brandon watched hopefully but soon noticed that the babies were not responding well. The crying remained intense, especially at night. Christine insisted it was normal, that the babies needed to adapt to the new regime, but Brandon noticed that Ethan and Nathan seemed more agitated than before, not less. Dorothy observed everything in silence, continuing her cleaning routine. Several times she witnessed moments of tension between Christine and the babies, but remained discreet. It was not her place to interfere. A week later, during one of the most difficult nights, Brandon found Dorothy cleaning the hallway near the twins' room at 2 in the morning. Dorothy, why are you working so late? I'm sorry, Mr. Brandon. Since the boys won't stop crying, I thought I'd get the cleaning done early so as not to disturb during the day. Brandon knew that wasn't the complete truth. Dorothy was there because she was worried about the babies, even though it wasn't her responsibility. They really are very agitated, he admitted, running his hand through his hair. Christine says it's normal, but you feel it's not right, Dorothy completed. Exactly. Sometimes I get the impression they were better off before she arrived. Dorothy hesitated, then decided to speak. Mr. Mitchell, may I make an observation? Of course. That night, when we managed to calm the boys down, it was because we treated them like babies who needed affection, not like a problem to be solved. Brandon reflected on her words. It was true that Christine treated caring for the twins in a very technical, almost mechanical way. Dorothy, if it were your decision, what would you do? Me, Mr. Mitchell, I can't give an opinion on that. Miss Christine has education, training. I'm just a cleaner. But you're a mother, and you managed to calm my children when no one else could. Dorothy looked toward the room from where the incessant crying was coming. If it were me, Mr. Mitchell, I would try to understand what each of them is feeling, instead of forcing them to adapt to a method. Babies aren't all the same. Each has their own personality, their own needs. That night, Brandon couldn't sleep. Dorothy's words echoed in his mind, mixed with the cries of his children and Christine's increasingly frustrated attempts. In the morning, he made a decision that surprised everyone in the house. Christine, I need to talk to you. Of course, Mr. Mitchell. Coincidentally, I also need to talk about the babies. I believe they may have some behavioral disorder that requires specialized monitoring. Actually, I'm thinking of trying a different approach. Different how? Brandon took a deep breath. I'd like you to work together with someone who has practical experience, not just theoretical. Christine raised her eyebrows. With whom exactly? With Dorothy, our cleaning lady. She managed to calm the babies in a way no one else could. Christine's face closed off immediately. Mr. Mitchell, with all due respect, but I cannot work that way. My methods are scientifically proven, based on years of study and research. I will not compromise my professional work with amateur practices. Christine, I'm not questioning your competence. I'm just suggesting that perhaps we can combine technical knowledge with maternal intuition. Mr. Mitchell, either you trust my methodology or you hire someone else. I do not accept interference in my work, especially from people without proper qualifications. Brandon realized he was at an impasse. Christine was unquestionably qualified on paper, but her rigidity was proving counterproductive. All right, Christine, thank you for your services, but I believe we are going to take a different path. You're firing me? I am thanking you for your services and opting for a different approach. Christine gathered her things with visible indignation. Mr. Mitchell, you will regret this. Babies need qualified professionals, not experiments with domestic staff. This could harm their development. After Christine left, Brandon was alone in the twins' room, watching Ethan and Nathan cry inconsolably. For a moment he wondered if he had made the right decision. It was then that he heard soft footsteps in the hallway. Dorothy appeared at the door, carrying cleaning supplies. Sorry to bother you, Mr. Mitchell. I came to clean the room. Actually, Dorothy, I'd like to talk to you. She placed the supplies on the floor and waited. I let Christine go. I saw her leaving, sir. Is there a problem? Dorothy, I have a somewhat unusual proposal for you. She looked at him curiously but maintained a respectful expression. I would like you to take care of Ethan and Nathan, officially. Dorothy blinked several times, as if she hadn't heard correctly. Mr. Mitchell, I don't think I understood well. I'm offering you the position of primary caregiver for my children. Sir, I can't. I don't have training. I don't have certificates. I don't have... You have experience. You have instinct. There's something all the other nannies didn't have. She managed to calm my children. Dorothy shook her head. Mr. Mitchell, you are desperate. It's natural. But I can't take on a responsibility like that. What if something happens? What if I don't know how to handle an emergency? Dorothy, you raised 4 children. You took care of 6 grandchildren. You recognized problems in babies that trained professionals couldn't identify. But sir, what will people think? Your wife's family, your friends, your acquaintances. A businessman like you hiring the cleaning lady to take care of your children. Brandon had thought about that, and it really bothered him. But the memory of that night, when Dorothy managed to bring peace to the twins' room, spoke louder than social conventions. Dorothy, my children need someone who loves them, who understands them, not someone who treats them like an academic project. Sir, I need to think. It's a huge responsibility. And I have my own life, my own grandchildren to take care of. Of course, take as much time as you need. But in the meantime, would it be possible to help me temporarily, just until I find a permanent solution? Dorothy looked at the babies, who had slightly reduced their crying since she entered the room. Her maternal heart couldn't ignore those children's suffering. All right, Mr. Mitchell, but only temporarily, and I'll keep doing the cleaning too. I need my job. Obviously, and thank you, Dorothy, thank you so much. In the following days, a different routine was established in the house. Dorothy divided her time between her cleaning duties and caring for the twins. To Brandon's surprise, she developed her own system that seemed to work better than any professional method. She discovered that Ethan had reflux and needed to stay upright longer after feedings. Nathan, in turn, was sensitive to noise and calmed down better in quieter environments. Small adjustments that made a huge difference in the baby's behavior. How did you figure this out? Brandon asked, watching her feed Ethan with patience and refined technique. By observing them, sir. Every baby has their signs. Ethan gets restless when he lies down right after feeding. Nathan gets startled by loud noises. They're details you only notice when you're really paying attention. Brandon began to observe his children more closely and really noticed the patterns Dorothy had identified. It was as if she spoke the baby's language, understood their needs without them needing to verbalize. Dorothy, you have a natural gift for this. It's not a gift, Mr. Mitchell. It's experience and patience. Babies need time to get used to people to trust. During the nights, which were once a torment, the twins began to sleep for longer periods. Brandon, for the first time since losing Jessica, managed to rest for a few hours straight. But the peace didn't last long. A week after the new arrangement, Brandon received an unexpected visit from his in-laws, Richard and Margaret Cardoso. Richard Cardoso was a respected retired judge, known for his moral rigidity and attachment to traditions. Margaret came from a wealthy family, always concerned with appearances and social conventions. Brandon, we need to talk about our grandchildren, declared Richard, entering the living room with his imposing posture. Of course, make yourselves at home, Brandon replied, already imagining the conversation wouldn't be easy. We heard you dismissed another nanny, said Margaret, disapproval in her voice. How many has it been? 10, 12. I'm trying to find the right person to take care of Ethan and Nathan. Brandon, with all due respect, but you clearly aren't handling the situation, Richard stated. Perhaps it would be better if the children came to live with us temporarily. Brandon felt his blood run cold. What do you mean, Richard? We have experience, structure, and most importantly, stability, Margaret explained. You are clearly in a fragile emotional state. You can't keep a nanny. You don't have an established routine with the babies. I love my children, and I'm doing the best I can. We know you love them, Brandon, but love is not enough. Children need stability, an organized environment, proper care, Richard retorted. Brandon knew they had reasons to be concerned, but the idea of losing his children was driving him to despair. Ethan and Nathan were his only connection to Jessica, his only family. "Richard, Margaret, I understand your concern, but I will not hand over my children. They stay with me." "Brandon, be reasonable," Margaret insisted. "You work all day. You can't keep a nanny. You're clearly overwhelmed. With us, they would have all the necessary attention. And when would I want to see them?" "Whenever you wished, obviously. But they would live with us until you get completely reorganized." Brandon was about to answer when he heard cries coming from the upper floor. Instinctively, he started to get up to go upstairs, but his in-laws stopped him. "Let the nanny handle it," said Richard. "Actually, I don't have a nanny at the moment." "What do you mean?" Margaret became alarmed. "Who is taking care of the children right now?" Brandon hesitated. He knew the answer would not be well received. "Dorothy, our employee, is helping me temporarily." The silence that followed was awkward. Richard and Margaret exchanged looks of shock and disapproval. "Brandon," Richard spoke slowly, "are you telling me the cleaning lady is taking care of our grandchildren? It's temporary, until I find someone suitable." "Brandon!" Margaret stood up, indignant. "How can you entrust our Jessica's children to a domestic employee? Dorothy is a trustworthy person. She has experience with children." "Experience?" Richard became agitated. "What kind of experience? Training in what? Specialization where? She is a mother of 4, a grandmother of 6 grandchildren. She managed to calm Ethan and Nathan when no one else could." "Brandon, you have completely lost touch with reality," Margaret declared. "This is proof that you are not in a condition to care for the children." The cries from the upper floor intensified, and Brandon could no longer contain himself. "Excuse me," he said, quickly going up the stairs. Arriving at the room, he found Dorothy trying to calm both babies simultaneously. She was singing softly, but both seemed particularly agitated. "Any problem, Dorothy?" "I don't know what happened, Mr. Brandon. They were sleeping peacefully but woke up agitated a few minutes ago. Maybe it's the weather. It's changing to rain." Brandon noticed that Dorothy seemed tense, different from her usual calm state. "Is everything all right?" "I heard raised voices downstairs, sir. I think the boys sense when there's tension in the house." Brandon sighed. It was true that babies were sensitive to the emotional environment around them. "It's my in-laws. They want to take Ethan and Nathan to live with them." Dorothy stopped humming, an expression of genuine concern crossing her face. "They are the grandparents, sir. They have a right to be concerned." "But they are my children, Dorothy." "Of course they are, Mr. Brandon. No one will take that from you." Dear listener, if you are enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we are just starting out. Now continuing. Brandon picked up Ethan in his arms and gradually the baby calmed down. Dorothy managed the same with Nathan, and little by little the room returned to tranquility. "Dorothy, may I ask you something personal?" "Of course, sir." "When you lost your first child, how did you deal with it?" Dorothy paused for a long moment, her eyes filling with restrained tears. "It was the hardest thing in my life, Mr. Brandon. For months, I couldn't even look at other children. But then I realized he taught me so much about motherhood, even though he was with me for such a short time." "How so?" "I learned that every moment with a child is precious, that it doesn't matter your social status, your education, your bank account. What matters is the love you give and the attention you offer." Brandon was moved by the answer. It was exactly what he felt, but couldn't put into words. "Dorothy, my in-laws think I'm not qualified to take care of Ethan and Nathan." "And what do you think, sir?" "I think I love them more than anything in the world, but sometimes I feel lost, not knowing if I'm doing everything right." "Mr. Brandon, every father and every mother feels that. No one is born knowing how to be a parent. We learn day by day, making mistakes, getting it right, always trying our best." "Do you think they'd be better off with my in-laws?" Dorothy thought carefully before answering. "Sir, your in-laws certainly have good intentions. But these boys need their father. They've already lost their mother. Imagine if they also lose their daily life with you." Dorothy's words touched Brandon deeply. He knew she was right, but he also knew he would face a difficult battle against his in-laws. Dorothy, can I count on your help? Whatever you need, Mr. Brandon. If I formally hire you as the baby's caregiver, would you agree? Dorothy hesitated again. Sir, your in-laws won't accept this. They'll make trouble for you. Let me worry about them. The question is, would you agree? I would agree, Mr. Brandon. These boys have already found a place in my heart. When Brandon went back downstairs to the living room, he found his in-laws standing, visibly impatient. Brandon, we've made a decision, announced Richard. We are filing for legal custody of the children. You can't do that. We can and we will. We have the resources to prove you don't have adequate conditions to raise them. What conditions? I'm their father. I have the financial means. I love them more than anything. Brandon, you hired the cleaning lady to take care of our grandchildren, Margaret repeated, as if this were the definitive proof of his inadequacy. It shows a total lack of responsibility. Dorothy is a wonderful, experienced, caring person. She can take care of Ethan and Nathan better than any certified nanny I've hired. Brandon, you're delusional, Richard declared. A domestic employee is not qualified to care for children. Qualified? Brandon became agitated. What about love and dedication and real experience with babies? Doesn't that count? Of course not, Margaret retorted. Children need trained professionals, not social experiments. It's not a social experiment. It's recognizing competence where it exists, regardless of social class. Richard shook his head in disapproval. Brandon, you are clearly in an emotionally unstable state. Our decision is made. We will seek legal custody of the children, and I will fight you with all my strength. Good luck, said Richard, heading for the door. But prepare to lose. We have solid arguments against your ability to properly care for Ethan and Nathan. After the in-laws left, Brandon remained alone in the living room, the weight of the legal threat heavy on his shoulders. He knew Richard didn't make empty threats. As a retired judge, he had the connections, resources, and legal knowledge to make the battle very difficult. Dorothy came down the stairs quietly and found him with his head down on the sofa. Mr. Brandon, I heard part of the conversation. I'm so sorry. Dorothy, maybe they're right. Maybe I'm really not fit to raise Ethan and Nathan alone. So don't say that. You are a wonderful father. I see how you look at your children, how you worry about them. But perhaps it's not enough. Maybe they really need a structure that I can't offer. Dorothy sat down respectfully in the armchair facing the sofa. Mr. Mitchell, may I tell a story? Of course. When my first child was born, I was very young, inexperienced, and I was alone. The child's father abandoned me when he found out about the pregnancy. My own family rejected me for getting pregnant while unmarried. Brandon listened to her attentively. I had no money, no home of my own. I had nothing. I lived in a tiny rented room, working as a housekeeper to support us. Many people said I should give my son up for adoption, that I wasn't in a position to raise him. What happened? I fought, Mr. Mitchell. I fought hard. I worked double shifts, saved every penny, studied at night to better myself. Do you know why? Why? Because a mother's and a father's love is priceless. You can't buy it with money. You don't learn it in college. It's born inside you. Brandon felt tears in his eyes. Dorothy, but in your case it worked out. In mine it might be different. Mr. Mitchell, your in-laws have money, they have structure, they have knowledge, but they don't have what you have. What do I have? A father's love, the desire to do right, the courage to try different things when conventional ones don't work. Do you think I can win this legal battle? I think you need to show that you are capable of giving your children everything they need. And that includes finding competent people to help, even if those people don't have diplomas hanging on the wall. Brandon reflected on her words. Perhaps Dorothy was right. Maybe he needed to stop apologizing for his choices and start defending them. Dorothy, do you officially accept the position as caregiver for Ethan and Nathan? I accept, Mr. Mitchell. Then let's formalize this. Contract benefits everything properly, and we'll face my in-laws together. Together, sir. In the following days, Brandon took steps to formalize Dorothy's situation. He significantly increased her salary, included health benefits, and established a career plan that included advanced courses in childcare. Dorothy, in turn, dedicated herself fully to caring for the twins. She developed a personalized routine for each baby, established flexible schedules based on individual needs, and created a welcoming environment in the children's room. The results were impressive. Ethan and Nathan gained weight appropriately, developed regular sleep patterns, and showed clear signs of healthy emotional development. They smiled for the first time, began to recognize familiar voices, and responded positively to stimuli. Brandon also benefited from the new dynamic. With the babies calmer and a routine established, he was able to return to work more peacefully. Dorothy taught him paternal care techniques, including him in the daily activities with his sons. "Mr. Mitchell, see how Nathan recognizes you," said Dorothy, watching the baby smile when he saw his father. "It's true, he really does smile when he sees me." "Of course he smiles, you are his daddy. Even this small, he knows who his family is." Brandon picked Nathan up, feeling a connection he hadn't experienced since the twins' birth. For the first time, he felt like a real father, not just a desperate man trying to care for two children. "Dorothy, how can I thank you for everything you've done for us?" "You don't need to thank me, Mr. Mitchell. Seeing these boys well is reward enough for me. But you've completely changed our lives." "No, sir. I just helped you discover the father that already existed inside you." The tranquility, however, was interrupted 2 weeks later when Brandon received a court summons. Richard had indeed filed for temporary custody of his grandchildren, citing parental incapacity and an unsuitable environment. Brandon read the document with disbelief. His in-laws listed a series of evidences of his inadequacy: the succession of dismissed nannies, hiring a domestic worker without formal qualifications to care for the children, lack of a structured routine, and emotional instability stemming from unprocessed grief. "Dorothy, they are really trying to take my children from me. Mr. Mitchell, you need a very good lawyer. I've already contacted one, attorney Michael Thompson, a specialist in family law, but he warned me it will be a difficult battle." "Why?" "Richard has influence in legal circles, unlimited financial resources, and most importantly, has arguments that may seem convincing to a judge who doesn't know our reality." Dorothy looked worried. "Mr. Mitchell, perhaps it's better if I step away temporarily. I don't want to be the reason you lose your children." "Absolutely not," Brandon replied firmly. "You are exactly the person my children need. If I give in now, I'll be admitting they are right. But, sir, Dorothy, you saved my family. You brought peace back to our home, taught my children to smile, taught me how to be a father. I won't abandon you now." The first hearing was scheduled for 2 weeks later. Brandon prepared intensely with attorney Michael, gathering evidence of the twins' positive development, medical documents proving their excellent health, and testimonies from close acquaintances. "Brandon, the situation is delicate," explained attorney Michael. "The judge will want to see concrete proof that you provide a suitable environment for the children. I have that proof. The babies are healthy, well cared for, developing properly." "Yes, but the problem is, Dorothy, your father-in-law's lawyers will attack exactly that point, a millionaire businessman who entrusts his children to a domestic worker." "And what's wrong with that? She is competent, dedicated, experienced." "Brandon, on paper it will look like irresponsibility, especially because you had the resources to hire trained nannies and chose, well, an unconventional alternative." Brandon was irritated by the lawyer's statement, but understood he was just being realistic about how the case would be perceived. "Attorney Michael, how can I prove my choice was the right one?" "We need medical testimonies, evidence of the baby's development, perhaps statements from child development experts." "And Dorothy, can she testify?" "She can, but it will be risky. Your father-in-law's lawyers will try to discredit her, questioning her training, her actual ability to care for babies properly." Brandon knew attorney Michael was right, but he also knew he couldn't win the battle by denying or minimizing Dorothy's role. He would have to defend her, and consequently defend his own choice. "Let's go with the truth, attorney Michael. Let's show the practical results, the children's development, the harmony she brought to our home." "All right, but prepare for a difficult battle." In the week leading up to the hearing, Brandon noticed Dorothy was more tense than usual. She continued caring for the babies with the same dedication, but seemed worried. "Dorothy, is everything all right?" "I'm worried, Mr. Mitchell. What if because of me you lose your children?" "That won't happen." "But what if it does? I would never forgive myself." "Dorothy, look at Ethan and Nathan. See how well they are, how they've developed, how they smile. That's thanks to you. It's thanks to you too. You are a wonderful father. I only learned to be a father because you taught me. You showed me how to understand my children, how to meet their needs." Dorothy smiled sadly. "Mr. Brandon, no matter what happens, I want you to know that these months taking care of your children have been very special to me. They helped me heal old wounds." Brandon was moved by her sincerity. "Dorothy, you've become part of our family. Ethan and Nathan will need you no matter what any judge decides." On the day of the hearing, the courtroom was full. Besides Brandon, Dorothy, and attorney Michael, Richard, Margaret, and a team of 3 lawyers hired by them were present. The judge, Judge William Harris, a man of about 60, had a reputation for being strict but fair. He listened carefully to the arguments of both sides. The in-laws lawyer, attorney Edward Parker, got straight to the point. "Your Honor, we are here to protect the welfare of 2 helpless children. The respondent, despite his good intentions, has repeatedly demonstrated his inability to provide adequate care. In 3 months, he dismissed 11 qualified nannies and ultimately entrusted the children's care to a domestic worker without any specific training." Brandon felt the description like a punch in the gut. Presented that way, his situation really did seem irresponsible. Attorney Parker continued, "The petitioners, on the other hand, offer stability, resources, experience, and, most importantly, a structured environment suitable for the children's healthy development." When it was Attorney Michael's turn, he stood up calmly. "Your Honor, this case is not about financial resources or academic credentials. It's about the best interest of the children, and the evidence clearly shows that under the care of the father and the current caregiver, the children have thrived remarkably." Attorney Michael presented medical reports proving the twins' excellent development, photographs showing their physical and emotional progress, and testimonies from healthcare professionals. "Your Honor, the question is not whether Dorothy Williams has a college degree. The question is whether she can adequately care for the children, and the results speak for themselves." The judge asked Dorothy to come forward to testify. "Mrs. Williams, do you have specific training in childcare?" "No, Your Honor, but I am a mother of 4 and a grandmother of 6. I've taken care of children my whole life." "How did you manage to calm the babies when trained nannies could not?" "Your Honor, every child is unique. I learned to observe, to understand what each one needs. Ethan and Nathan weren't difficult. They just needed personalized attention." Attorney Parker stood up for cross-examination. "Ma'am, do you consider yourself qualified to identify health problems in babies, and if there is a medical emergency?" "Your Honor, anyone who cares for a child learns to recognize signs of trouble. And in an emergency, of course, I would call a doctor immediately. But you don't have training for that, correct?" "I don't have a diploma, Your Honor, but I have experience." "Experience is not the same as professional qualification, is it?" Brandon saw that the lawyer was trying to diminish Dorothy and stood up. "Your Honor, may I speak?" The judge nodded. "Your Honor, in 3 months, 12 qualified professionals could not properly care for my children. Dorothy could. The babies are healthy, happy, developing normally. Isn't that what matters?" The judge pondered for a few moments. "Mr. Mitchell, I understand your point. But the grandparents' concern has merit. The responsibility of caring for babies is immense." "Your Honor," Brandon continued, "I didn't entrust my children to Dorothy out of irresponsibility. I entrusted them because she demonstrated real, practical, effective competence. My children are proving that every day." The attorney, William Harris, analyzed all the documents presented, heard the witnesses, and finally made his decision. This is a complex case involving important social issues. On one hand, we have grandparents concerned about their grandchildren's well-being. On the other, a father determined to raise his children with the help of someone he trusts. Brandon held his breath. Analyzing the medical evidence, it is clear that the children are developing adequately under the current care. On the other hand, the grandparents' concern regarding the caregiver's formal qualifications also has merit. Therefore, I rule as follows. Custody remains with the father, but under supervision. A social worker will make monthly visits to assess the care conditions. Furthermore, I strongly recommend that the current caregiver take a certified first aid and childcare course. Brandon felt immense relief, but knew the victory had been only partial. He would still have to continually prove his capability. I also rule that the grandparents have the right to regular visits and participation in important decisions regarding the children. Richard and Margaret were not satisfied with the decision, but acknowledged it was a reasonable compromise. "Brandon, we hope you honor the judge's trust," said Richard as they said goodbye. "I will honor it, Richard. My children will receive the best possible care." Back at home, Brandon and Dorothy talked about what happened. "Mr. Brandon, I will take all the courses the judge suggested. Dorothy, you don't need to prove anything to anyone, but if you want to do it, I fully support you." "I do want to, not just because of what the judge said, but because I've always wanted to learn more. I never had the opportunity before." In the following months, Dorothy enrolled in first aid, neonatal care, and child development courses. To everyone's surprise, including her own, she excelled in all subjects. "Dorothy, you got the top grade in the class in child development," Brandon commented, proud. "It's just that I already knew a lot from practice, Mr. Brandon. The course just gave scientific names to things I already knew." The visits from the social worker, Ms. Caroline Davis, confirmed what Brandon already knew. Ethan and Nathan were developing exceptionally well. "Mr. Mitchell, I rarely see babies so well cared for and developed," commented Ms. Caroline after her third visit. "The routine established by Dorothy is exemplary. She really is special. It's evident she has a natural gift for caring for children. Combined with the courses she's taking, she has become a high-level professional." Even the in-laws began to recognize the quality of care during their monthly visits. "Brandon, I must admit the children are doing very well," said Margaret during one of her visits. "Ethan and Nathan are clearly happy and healthy. Dorothy is an exceptional person. She really is. I apologize for the initial judgments." The complete reconciliation came when Richard, watching Dorothy play with his grandchildren, made a comment that surprised everyone. "Dorothy, you have a natural talent with children. Have you ever thought about opening a school or daycare? Me, sir, I don't have the education for that. You have experience, which is worth much more, and now you have certifications too." Brandon felt proud seeing his in-laws recognize Dorothy's value. It was the validation he always knew she deserved. 6 months after the hearing, life in Brandon's house had found a perfect balance. Ethan and Nathan, now 8 months old, were happy, healthy, and clearly well-adjusted babies. They recognized Dorothy as a maternal figure and Brandon as a loving and present father. "Mr. Brandon, look at Ethan trying to crawl," said Dorothy, watching the baby struggle to move. "And Nathan can already sit up by himself," Brandon added, playing with his other son. "They're growing up so fast." Brandon watched Dorothy interact with his children and realized how fundamental she had become in their lives. She wasn't just an employee or a caregiver, she was part of the family. "Dorothy, I have a proposal to make." "Go ahead, Mr. Mitchell. How about we formalize our partnership even further? I'm thinking of creating a childcare center. You would be the educational coordinator." Dorothy was surprised by the proposal. "Mr. Mitchell, that's very generous, but it's not generosity, it's recognition. You have the competence, the experience, and now you have certifications. You could help other families like you helped ours." "It's an interesting idea, but first I want to see Ethan and Nathan grow up a little more." "Of course there's no rush, but think about it. You could make a difference in the lives of many children." Dorothy smiled, imagining the possibilities. "Perhaps, Mr. Mitchell, perhaps in the future." That night, after putting the twins to sleep, Brandon and Dorothy talked about how their lives had changed. "Dorothy, you saved my family." "No, Mr. Mitchell. I just helped you discover the family you already were. Without you, I would have lost Ethan and Nathan. You would never have lost them, sir. A father like you would never lose his children." Brandon reflected on everything that had happened since that first night, when Dorothy managed to calm the babies. He understood that the true lesson hadn't been about professional competence or academic qualifications, but about recognizing value wherever it manifests. Dorothy, thank you for teaching me that love and dedication are the only qualifications that truly matter. And thank you, sir, for giving me the chance to be part of this beautiful family. The two of them looked out the bedroom window at the house's garden, where in the future Ethan and Nathan would play, grow up, and become men. The house, once marked by sadness and despair, now breathed hope and love. Mr. Mitchell, can I make a confession? Of course. When I entered this house for the first time 4 years ago, I felt it was a special place, and now I'm sure I was right. Brandon smiled. It's special because it has special people like you. No, sir. It's special because it's a real home, where people care for each other, regardless of their position or background. In the following years, Ethan and Nathan grew up surrounded by their father's love and Dorothy's special care. They never knew there had been a legal battle for their custody. They simply grew up in a family where love was more important than social conventions. Brandon never married again, dedicating himself fully to fatherhood and work. Dorothy remained an integral part of the family, eventually being affectionately called Grandma Dot by the boys. When Ethan and Nathan turned 5, Brandon finally created the childcare center he had proposed. Dorothy, now with multiple certifications and recognized experience, became the educational director. The center became a reference in the city, known for its humanized and personalized approach. "Dad, why does Grandma Dot work so much?" Ethan asked one day. "Because she loves children, son, and she wants them all to have the same care you had." "She's the best grandma in the world," declared Nathan. Brandon smiled, knowing his children had grown up with a different perspective on human worth and the importance of people. During an interview for a local magazine about the childcare center's success, Brandon was asked about the unusual story that led to the project's creation. "Mr. Mitchell, is it true that it all started when you hired your cleaning lady as a nanny?" "It's true, but I prefer to say that I recognize competence where it was, regardless of titles or social position. Did that cause problems at the time? It did. Some people didn't understand, but the results proved the decision was right. What advice would you give to other parents? That they pay attention to what truly matters. If their children are well cared for, loved, and developing properly, the rest is secondary." The interview was published and generated positive repercussions, with many families seeking a more humanized approach to childcare. Dorothy, now 58, had become a reference in her field. She gave lectures, consulted, and had written a book on childcare based on practical experience. "Dorothy, did you imagine you would get this far when you agreed to care for Ethan and Nathan?" "Never, Mr. Mitchell. I just wanted to help 2 children who were suffering." "And you ended up helping hundreds of other children as well." "It's gratifying to know our story inspired other families to rethink their priorities." Brandon agreed. He himself had become an advocate for more inclusive policies in his company, creating internal training programs and recognizing talent regardless of academic background. Ethan and Nathan, now 8 years old, were confident, affectionate children with a worldview based on solid human values. At school, they defended classmates who suffered prejudice and always treated staff with respect and affection. "Dad, our teacher said, not everyone is lucky enough to have a family like ours," commented Ethan during dinner. "Why did she say that, son?" "Because we really love each other, no matter if a person works doing one thing or another." Brandon and Dorothy exchanged a look, proud of the result of their upbringing. "That's true, Ethan. What matters is how people are, not what they do for a living." "Grandma Dot was always our grandma, even when she cleaned the house," added Nathan. "And she always will be," Brandon confirmed. 10 years after that first night when Dorothy calmed the twins, the family had found its perfect form. Brandon had learned that fatherhood isn't based on rigid rules, but on love, attention, and the willingness to recognize competent help wherever it comes from. Dorothy had discovered that her life experience was worth as much as any academic training, and that it was never too late to grow professionally. Her old wounds had healed through caring for Ethan and Nathan. The twins grew up in a family that taught them fundamental values: respect for all people, the importance of character over social position, and that true love overcomes any prejudice or convention. "Mr. Mitchell," said Dorothy one afternoon, watching the boys play in the garden, "thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to be part of this family. Dorothy, we are the ones who should thank you. You taught us the true meaning of family." "That's exactly what family is, sir. People who love and care for each other, regardless of anything else." Brandon watched his sons running through the garden, happy and secure. He watched Dorothy, who had become much more than an employee, more than a nanny, more than a friend. She was family in the purest sense of the word. The story that had begun with desperation and prejudice had transformed into a lesson about human value, recognition of talent, and the importance of keeping an open heart to receive help, regardless of where it comes from. Dear listener, if you are enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out, now continuing. When Ethan and Nathan turned 12, Brandon organized a special party. He invited everyone who had been part of their journey, his in-laws, now completely reconciled, Attorney Michael, Ms. Caroline, former household staff, and especially the families who had benefited from the childcare center run by Dorothy. During the party, Richard approached Brandon with a thoughtful expression. "Brandon, I need to apologize to you again." "Richard, that's already in the past." "No, I need to say this. Back then I was blinded by prejudices I didn't even know I had. Dorothy proved to be one of the most competent and dedicated people I've ever met. She really is special. More than special. She's an example of how wrong we can be about people when we judge them only by appearance or social position." Margaret joined the conversation. "Brandon, Dorothy has become one of the most important people in our grandchildren's lives. They love her unconditionally, and she loves them just the same. It's true, she was always much more than an employee to us. And we learned that competence and dedication have no color, social class, or diploma," added Richard. Brandon was moved to see how his in-laws' mindset had evolved over the years. During the party, Dorothy was honored by the local community for her work at the Children's Center. She received a recognition plaque from the City Hall and expressions of affection from dozens of families. "Mrs. Dorothy saved our family too," said one of the mothers present. "My son had trouble adapting, and she managed to help him when no one else could." "She has a special gift for understanding children," commented another. "My daughter always says she wants to be just like Aunt Dot when she grows up." Brandon watched Dorothy receive the honors with her characteristic humility, always directing the credit to the teamwork and the support she received. Later, when the guests had left and the house returned to its tranquility, Brandon, Dorothy, Ethan, and Nathan sat on the porch to talk. "Grandma Dot, you're never going to leave us, right?" asked Nathan, with the typical worry of a 12-year-old. "Never, my love. You are my grandchildren in my heart, and I will always be here for you." "Even when we're adults?" insisted Ethan. "Especially when you're adults. You'll need someone to tell about your achievements, your problems, your joys." Brandon watched the interaction between Dorothy and his sons, realizing how she had truly become a grandmother to them, in the fullest sense of the word. "Boys, you know you're very lucky, right?" said Brandon. "Why, Dad?" "Because you learned from a young age that a person's worth isn't in what they do or have, but in who they are." "We know, Dad," replied Ethan. "Grandma Dot always taught us that." "And you will carry that lesson for your whole lives," added Dorothy. "Always treat everyone with respect and kindness no matter what." That night, after the boys went to sleep, Brandon and Dorothy talked about the future. "Dorothy, have you ever thought about retiring?" "Retire? Me?" she laughed. "Mister, Brandon, I still have a lot of work ahead of me. The center is running perfectly. You've already built an excellent team. But there are always children who need special help. How can I stop?" Brandon smiled. It was typical of Dorothy to think first of others' needs. "You're right, but promise you'll take care of your health too." "I promise, sir, and you? Have you thought about getting married again?" The question took Brandon by surprise. It was something he rarely considered. "Honestly, no. Ethan and Nathan occupy all my free time, and I'm always busy with work. Mr. Brandon, you're still young. You could find someone special." maybe one day. But for now, I'm happy with the family we have. I'm happy too, sir. Very happy. The following years brought gradual changes. Ethan and Nathan grew up, becoming responsible and studious teenagers. Brandon expanded his business, always maintaining the human values he had learned. Dorothy continued running the children's center, which became a model for other cities. When the twins turned 16, they surprised everyone with a school project about social discrimination and talent recognition. They used their own family story as the main example. "Dad, we want to share our story to show how prejudices can be overcome," explained Ethan. "And how competent people can come from anywhere," added Nathan. "Are you sure? It's something very personal." "We're sure, Dad. Our story can help other people rethink their prejudices." Brandon was proud of his son's maturity and how they viewed their own history. The presentation was a success at school, sparking important discussions about human worth and talent recognition. Many parents identified with the story and began to rethink their own attitudes. "Mr. Mitchell," said the school principal, "your son's presentation was touching and educational. They demonstrated impressive maturity." "They learned from an exceptional teacher," Brandon replied, looking at Dorothy. "It's clear they grew up in a family that values what truly matters." That night, Brandon organized a special dinner to celebrate the success of the presentation. "Boys, I'm very proud of you," he said during dinner. "We just told our story, Dad," Ethan replied. "Exactly. And you showed that our story is special because it's based on love and respect." "Grandma Dot always said the best stories are the ones that teach something," commented Nathan. Dorothy was moved by the comment. "You two are my greatest pride. Seeing how you've grown, how respectful and caring you are, is the greatest reward of my life." "Grandma Dot, when we're adults, will you still visit us?" asked Ethan. "Of course, my dear. And I'll meet your girlfriends, your wives, my great-grandchildren." "Great-grandchildren?" Nathan was startled. "We're still kids." Everyone laughed at Nathan's reaction. "Time flies, my dear," said Dorothy. "It seems like just yesterday you were crying babies that no one could calm." "We were a handful for sure," admitted Ethan. "You were, but it was a joyful handful," Brandon commented. "It taught me how to be a real father." When Ethan and Nathan turned 18, Brandon organized a double graduation party. The boys had been accepted into prestigious universities, Ethan in engineering and Nathan in medicine. During the party, Brandon gave an emotional speech. "My sons, you are beginning a new phase of life. Take with you the values we learned together. Respect all people, recognize talents wherever they may be, and never forget that character is more important than any title." Ethan stood up to respond. "Dad, everything we are today we owe to you and Grandma Dot. You taught us that a family is built with love, not conventions." Nathan added, "And we promise we will always honor these teachings in our personal and professional lives." Dorothy, now 68 years old, was emotional, seeing the boys she raised become men. "My grandsons, you are my greatest treasure. Wherever life takes you, always remember that you are loved unconditionally." The party was a milestone in the family's history. It represented not only Ethan and Nathan's coming of age, but also the consolidation of the values that had guided their upbringing. During their college years, the twins kept in constant contact with the family. They brought friends home, all impressed by the special relationship between Brandon, Dorothy, and the boys. "Dude, your family is really cool," commented one of Ethan's friends. "Your grandma is awesome." Ethan smiled. "Grandma Dot really is special. She raised me alongside my dad." "How did she create it?" "It's a long story, but basically she taught us everything about life, love, and respect." Many of the twins' friends became regular visitors to the house, drawn by the welcoming atmosphere and the interesting conversations with Dorothy, who always had educational stories to tell. "Mrs. Dorothy, how do you manage to give such good advice?" asked one of Nathan's girlfriends. "Experience, my dear. Life teaches a lot to those who pay attention. You're like a grandma to all of us, and you are like grandchildren to me. Family isn't just blood, it's affection and care." When Ethan and Nathan graduated at 22, Brandon organized another memorable party. This time he invited not only family and friends, but also all the families who had been helped by the childcare center over the years. Today we celebrate not only the graduation of Ethan and Nathan, said Brandon during his speech, but also the success of a life project based on human values. These two young men are proof that an education based on love, respect, and inclusion can form exceptional citizens. Ethan and Nathan, now confident and well-educated young adults, thanked everyone who had been part of their journey. Our story began in a difficult way, said Ethan, but it turned into a lesson about overcoming and recognizing human worth. And all of this thanks to our father, who had the courage to break prejudices, added Nathan, and to our grandma Dot, who taught us the true meaning of family. Dorothy, visibly moved, approached the microphone. My dear grandchildren, seeing you become the men you are today is my greatest achievement. You prove that love and dedication are the only ingredients needed for a quality education. The party lasted into the early morning, with people of all ages and social classes celebrating together. It was the perfect representation of the community that had formed around the family. Mr. Mitchell, said the mayor of the city present at the party, your family has become an example for our community. Dorothy's work has transformed our view on childcare. Dorothy deserves all the credit. She always had vision. I just recognized her talent. And that attitude changed many lives. How many other Dorothys are out there just waiting for an opportunity? Brandon reflected on the question. It was true that his decision had opened doors for important discussions about recognizing talent and overcoming prejudices. In the following years, Ethan specialized in sustainable engineering and Nathan in pediatrics. Both applied the values learned in the family to their careers, always prioritizing the human aspect of their work. Ethan developed housing projects for low-income families, while Nathan specialized in neonatal care, working mainly with premature babies and their families. Son, you chose the same field where it all began, commented Brandon, visiting Nathan at the hospital where he worked. It wasn't a coincidence, Dad. Grandma Dot taught me from a young age the importance of taking good care of babies. I want to help other families like she helped ours. She would be proud. She is proud. She always comes to visit me at the hospital, gives advice to the mothers, helps calm difficult babies. Brandon smiled. At 75, Dorothy was still the same caring and dedicated person as always. Ethan also kept Dorothy involved in his projects. Grandma Dot, I need your opinion on this project, he would always say, showing plans for affordable housing. My grandson, you know I don't understand anything about engineering. But you understand family, and these houses are for families. I need to know if they are functional for real people. Dorothy's observations were always valuable, based on real-life experience and the practical needs of families. When Ethan got married at 28 to Sarah, a social worker he met during one of his projects, Dorothy was chosen to be the matron of honor. Grandma Dot, you're the most important person in my life, after Dad, explained Ethan. I can't get married without you as my matron of honor. My grandson, that is a great honor for an old woman like me. You're not old, you're experienced, and I want my children to have the same luck I had, growing up with you nearby. Nathan got married 2 years later to Emily, a pediatric nurse who also greatly admired Dorothy. Mrs. Dorothy, said Emily, I hope you'll teach me how to care for children like you taught Nathan. My dear, you already know how to care for them very well. I see how you treat the little patients at the hospital. But I want to learn your secrets, your special techniques. I have no secrets, just love and patience. Dorothy adored her daughters-in-law and treated them like true daughters. They in turn consulted her about everything, recipes, household care, relationship advice. Mrs. Dorothy is better than any psychologist, Sarah would tell her friends. She always knows what to say at the right time. When the first grandchild was born, the son of Ethan and Sarah, Brandon was moved to see Dorothy holding him for the first time. Mr. Brandon, look how much he looks like baby Ethan, she said, with tears in her eyes. And you are here to care for him too, just like you cared for his father. If God allows, I will care for all the grandchildren and great-grandchildren to come. The baby, named Gabriel in honor of Dorothy, who had shared that her first son, whom she lost, was named Gabriel. calmed down immediately in her arms. "Incredible," said Sarah. "He stops crying every time you hold him." "It's Grandma Dot's special touch," explained Ethan. "She has the gift of calming babies." "A gift I've been trying to learn for years," joked Nathan. 2 years later, the second great-grandchild was born, the daughter of Nathan and Emily. Claire also responded immediately to Dorothy's care. "Grandma Dot, how do you do that?" asked Emily, impressed. "Experience, my dear, and a lot of love. Babies can feel when they are truly loved." Brandon, now a grandfather, watched enchanted as Dorothy applied the same special care with her great-grandchildren that she had applied with Ethan and Nathan. "Dorothy, you are raising the 4th generation of our family. And what joy that gives me, Mr. Brandon. Seeing these little ones grow up healthy and happy is my greatest reward. You deserve all the recognition in the world." "I don't need recognition, sir. I just need this wonderful family we have." In the following years, the family continued to grow. Ethan and Sarah had 2 more children, and Nathan and Emily had another daughter. Dorothy, even in her 80s, continued to be the loving matriarch who cared for everyone with tireless dedication. "Grandma Dot, when I grow up, I want to be just like you," said Gabriel, now 8 years old. "How so, my love?" "I want to take care of everyone, make everyone happy." "You already do that, my grandson. Just by existing, you make Grandma happy." Brandon watched these interactions with deep satisfaction. The decision he had made more than 30 years earlier had borne fruit that would continue for generations. "Dorothy, you have become the heart of this family." "No, Mr. Brandon. This family has many hearts. You, Ethan, Nathan, the daughters-in-law, the grandchildren. I just helped keep everyone together. You did much more than that. You taught us the true meaning of human value." When Dorothy turned 80, the family organized a special party. They invited all the people who had been impacted by her work over the years, former students from the Children's Center, now adults with children of their own, co-workers, families she had helped. "Mrs. Dorothy," said one of the former students, now a doctor, "you saved my life when I was a child. I was very shy, I couldn't relate to other children. You taught me to have confidence in myself." "My dear, you always had that confidence. You just needed to discover it. But you were the one who helped me discover it." Similar testimonials followed one after another throughout the party. Dorothy had impacted hundreds of lives over the course of her career. "Grandma Dot," said Ethan during the tribute speech, "you are proof that one person can change the world one child at a time, and you taught us that competence and dedication are more important than any diploma," added Nathan. Brandon gave the final speech of the night. "Dorothy, over 30 years ago you entered our home as a cleaning lady. Today, you are the matriarch of a family that spans 4 generations. Your story is proof that talent can be found anywhere, and that recognizing that talent can change lives." "Mr. Brandon," replied Dorothy, "when I entered this house, I never imagined I would find a family. But that's exactly what happened. You gave me much more than I gave you." "Impossible," said Brandon. "You gave love, dedication, wisdom. You taught us values that we have passed on to our children and grandchildren." "And they will pass them on to their children," added Ethan. "That's how you build a legacy," concluded Nathan. The party ended with everyone singing happy birthday to Dorothy, surrounded by 4 generations of the family she had helped raise and keep united. In the following years, even at an advanced age, Dorothy remained active in the family. She cared for her great-grandchildren with the same dedication she had cared for Ethan and Nathan, always with wise advice and inexhaustible affection. "Great-great-grandma Dot," said Gabriel, now a teenager, "you are the wisest person I know." "I'm not wise, my love. I've just lived a long time and paid attention to what life taught me." "But that's wisdom, isn't it?" "Perhaps it is, my grandson. Perhaps it is." Brandon, now also elderly, spent a lot of time talking with Dorothy about the family's past and future. "Dorothy, do you think we did everything right?" "Mr. Brandon, just look at this beautiful family we have. Everyone united, respectful, caring. If that's not doing it right, I don't know what is. Sometimes I wonder how it would have been if I had given in to my in-laws' pressure back then." it wouldn't have been the same. Ethan and Nathan grew up the way they did because they were raised with love by their father in their home. With your fundamental help. We helped each other, Mr. Brandon. You gave me opportunities I never would have had on my own. And you gave us a real family. By the time Brandon turned 70, the family had become a small community. Ethan and Sarah had 4 children. Nathan and Emily had 3. They all grew up with the same core values: respect for all people, recognition of talent wherever it may be, and the importance of character over any other consideration. "Grandpa Brandon," said Claire, now 15, "our family is different from others, isn't it?" "How so, my granddaughter?" "We don't care about those things like social class, academic background. We value people for who they are." "That's true. And is that good or bad?" "It's great. My friends are impressed with our family. They say we are more united than others." Brandon felt proud to realize the values had been successfully transmitted to the 3rd generation. "Claire, that is great-great-grandma Dot's merit. She taught us those values." "I know. That's why she's my favorite person in the whole world." "Mine too, my granddaughter. Mine too." When Dorothy turned 85, her health began to show signs of fragility. Nothing serious, just the natural tiredness of age. The family organized themselves to care for her with the same affection she had always shown for everyone. "Grandma Dot, now it's our turn to take care of you," said Ethan, installing a special bell in her room. "My grandson, you've been doing that for years, but now we're going to do it even better." Nathan, as a doctor, personally monitored Dorothy's health, ensuring she had the best possible treatment. "Grandma Dot, you need to slow down. You don't have to take care of everyone anymore. My grandson, taking care of people is what keeps me alive. If I stop, I'll wither away." "Then keep caring, but in moderation." Dorothy smiled. "All right, Dr. Nathan. I'll be an obedient patient." Brandon spent hours talking with Dorothy, reminiscing about special family moments. "Dorothy, do you remember that first night when you managed to calm Ethan and Nathan?" "How could I forget, Mr. Mitchell? That was the day that changed our lives. Did you know at that moment that you were changing all of our destinies?" "I didn't know anything, sir. I just wanted to help 2 children who were suffering. And you ended up saving an entire family." "We saved each other, Mr. Mitchell. It was a team effort." During one of these conversations, Dorothy made a confession that moved Brandon deeply. "Mr. Mitchell, can I tell you a secret?" "Of course, Dorothy." "Back then, when I lost my first child, I was very angry with God. I couldn't understand why it happened to me. It's natural to feel that way. But when I started caring for Ethan and Nathan, I understood. God prepared me to be their mother too. My first child taught me how to be a mother, so I could care for them when they needed it." Brandon was moved by the depth of Dorothy's reflection. "Dorothy, you have a beautiful wisdom. Pain teaches a lot, Mr. Mitchell, if you know how to turn it into love. And you knew how. You turned your pain into love for our family. And I received much more love in return. It was a good deal," she said, smiling. Dorothy's great-grandchildren, now young adults, often sought her out for advice about life, career, and relationships. "Great-great-grandma Dot, how do I know if I'm choosing the right career?" asked Gabriel on the eve of his college entrance exams. "My grandson, choose something that makes you feel good, and that does good for others too." "How so?" "Work with something that makes you happy, but that also helps other people. That way you'll never regret it." "And what if I don't succeed?" "You always succeed, my dear. Maybe not in the way we imagine at first, but it always works out when you work with love." Gabriel followed the advice and chose psychology, inspired by how Dorothy had always helped people solve their problems. Claire chose education, wanting to follow in Dorothy's footsteps in working with children. "Great-great-grandma Dot, I want to work with children like you did." "What a joy, my granddaughter. Children need people who truly love them. Will you teach me your secrets?" "I don't have any secrets, my dear. Just love and patience, and you already have both." During her final years, Dorothy continued to be the emotional center of the family. Her presence brought peace and wisdom to all family gatherings. "Great-great-grandma Dot, said one of the younger great-grandchildren. "Why are you so special?" "I'm not special, my dear. I'm just an old lady who loves you all very much." "But everyone says you're special." "Everyone is special, my grandson. It's just that sometimes people forget that." Brandon watched these interactions with deep gratitude. Dorothy had left an indelible mark on every member of the family. "Dorothy, you created a dynasty of good people." "I didn't create anything, Mr. Brandon. I just helped each one discover the goodness that already existed within them." "You are very modest." "It's not modesty, sir, it's the truth. Goodness isn't taught, it's awakened." When Dorothy turned 90, the family organized a celebration even bigger than the previous ones. 3 generations of former students from the Children's Center came to honor her, many bringing their own children. "Mrs. Dorothy," said one of the first students, now a grandfather, "you took care of me, of my children, and now you're taking care of my grandchildren. Our entire family has been blessed by your love." "And I have been blessed by your love too, my dear. You are an angel on earth. I'm not an angel, I'm just a person who discovered that loving is the most important thing in life." During the party, a book about Dorothy's life was launched, written by Claire as her final pedagogy course project. The book became a reference in discussions about talent recognition and overcoming social prejudices. "Great-great-grandma Dot, your book is helping many people rethink their prejudices," said Claire proudly. "That's good, my granddaughter. If our story serves to lessen prejudice in the world, then everything we went through was worth it." "You don't regret anything?" "Nothing, my dear. Every difficulty brought us here to this wonderful family." Brandon, at 75, reflected on the extraordinary journey he had lived. "Dorothy, do you think I made the right decision back then?" "Mr. Brandon, just look at what happened. We have a beautiful, united family, full of love. How could it have been the wrong decision? Sometimes I still wonder what would have happened if I had given in to social pressure." "Don't think about that, sir. Think about the present, about this wonderful family we have." "You're right. The present is perfect." "It's not perfect, Mr. Brandon, but it's ours, and that's what matters." During her final years, Dorothy remained active, participating in the lives of her great-grandchildren and even the great-great-grandchildren who began to be born. Her longevity was attributed by everyone to the love she constantly received and gave. "Grandma Dot," asked one of the great-great-grandchildren, still a child, "why do you live so long?" "Because I have you all to take care of, my love. As long as you need me, I'll be here. And we'll need you forever." "Then I'll try to stay forever," she replied, smiling. Brandon spent his last years working on social projects, always inspired by the values Dorothy had taught. He created a foundation that offered training opportunities for talented people, regardless of their academic background. Dorothy, our story has inspired hundreds of other similar stories. What joy, Mr. Brandon. It means love multiplies. You planted seeds that keep germinating. We all planted them, sir. Every act of love is a seed. When Dorothy turned 95, the entire city participated in the celebration. She had become a local symbol of wisdom, love, and overcoming prejudice. "Mrs. Dorothy," said the mayor during the tribute, "you transformed our city. You taught us that talent can be found anywhere. I didn't teach anything people didn't already know in their hearts, Mr. Mayor, but you helped many people discover it. It was a pleasure and an honor." Dorothy's family had expanded to over 50 people, among children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, great-great-grandchildren, and extended family, all united by the same fundamental values she had helped establish. "Great-great-grandma Dot," said Gabriel, now a successful psychologist, "our family is an example of how love can overcome any barrier." "And will you pass these values on to your children too?" "Of course we will. It's our most precious legacy." "Then my work is complete." Brandon, even in his old age, remained the affectionate patriarch that Dorothy had helped shape. "Dorothy, without you, I would never have become the father I became. You always had that within you, Mr. Mitchell. You just needed to discover it. Discover it with your help." "We helped each other, sir. It was a beautiful partnership." During one of the last deep conversations between Brandon and Dorothy, She reflected something that summed up her entire life philosophy. "Mr. Mitchell, I learned that life isn't about what we have or where we're born. It's about what we do with the opportunities that come our way. And you did incredible things with your opportunities. I only tried to love the best I could. The rest was a consequence. Love really is the answer to everything. It's the only answer, Mr. Mitchell. Everything else is detail." Dorothy lived to be 98, lucid and affectionate until her final days. When her time came, she was surrounded by the family she had helped raise and keep united for decades. "My dears," she said in her final moments, "take care of each other, love each other, and always remember, a person's worth is in their heart, not in anything else." "We'll always remember Grandma Dot," promised Ethan, holding her hand. "And we'll teach our children too," added Nathan. "Thank you for letting me be part of this beautiful family," were her last words. Dorothy's funeral was an event that mobilized the entire city. Thousands of people attended to pay their last respects to the woman who had impacted so many lives. Brandon, now 80 years old, gave an emotional speech. "Dorothy wasn't just our employee, nanny, or friend. She was the heart of our family. She taught us that love, dedication, and competence are more important than any title or social position. She proved that one person can change the world, one life at a time, and she changed our lives forever." Ethan and Nathan, now mature and successful men, also paid their respects. "Grandma Dot taught us the most important values in life," said Ethan. "Respect, love, humility, and recognition of human worth. And we will pass these values on to our children and grandchildren," Nathan completed. "Her legacy will live forever." After the funeral, the family gathered at the house where it all began. Brandon, now very old, looked at the rooms where Ethan and Nathan had been born and raised under Dorothy's special care. "Dad," said Ethan, "what do we do now?" "We'll keep being the family she taught us to be," answered Brandon. "United, loving, respectful. And we'll continue her work," added Nathan, "taking care of each other and anyone in need." In the months following Dorothy's passing, the family created the Dorothy Williams Institute, an organization dedicated to identifying and developing talent in underprivileged communities, regardless of academic background. "It's the best way to honor her memory," said Claire, now the Institute's pedagogical director. "She would be proud," agreed Gabriel, responsible for the project's psychology area. Brandon, in his final years of life, dedicated himself fully to the Institute, seeing in it the continuation of the work Dorothy had begun decades before. "Mr. Mitchell," said Sarah, now Ethan's widow, "do you think Mrs. Dorothy would approve of what we're doing?" "I'm sure she would. She always believed that everyone has talent, they just need an opportunity to develop it." The Dorothy Williams Institute became a national reference in social inclusion programs and talent recognition. Thousands of people were helped, many of them replicating the values they learned in their own communities. When Brandon turned 85, the family organized a celebration not just for him, but also in memory of Dorothy. The house was filled with 4 generations of the family, plus hundreds of people who had been impacted by their story. "Grandpa Brandon," said one of the great-grandchildren, "tell the story of great-great-grandma Dot again." Brandon smiled, as he always did, when asked about it. "Once upon a time, there was a very sad man who couldn't care for his babies until a very wise woman arrived and taught everyone the true meaning of family. And did they live happily ever after?" asked one of the children. "They lived happily ever after," confirmed Brandon, "and they continue living through each one of you." Dorothy's legacy continued growing through the generations. Her values were passed on not only to the biological family, but to everyone who spent time with her and learned her teachings. 10 years after Dorothy's passing, the institute that bore her name had expanded to several states. Her story had inspired legislative changes in professional recognition and social inclusion policies. "Great-great-grandma Dot changed much more than our family," said one of the great-great-grandchildren, now an adult. "She changed society. She simply planted seeds of love and respect, replied Brandon, now over 90 years old. The seeds grew because they found fertile ground in people's hearts. Brandon lived to be 93, always surrounded by the loving family he had helped raise together with Dorothy. In his final moments, he was conscious and at peace. "My children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren," he said, "you are my greatest pride. Dorothy and I managed to build a family based on love and respect. Keep it that way." "We will keep it, Dad," promised Ethan. "Forever," confirmed Nathan. "And we will tell our story to our children and grandchildren," added Claire. "So they never forget that love overcomes everything," finished Gabriel. Brandon smiled, seeing Dorothy and every beloved face around him. "Thank you, Dorothy," he whispered. "Thank you for teaching us how to be a real family." Years after Brandon's passing, the family remained united by the core values learned from him and Dorothy. Ethan and Nathan, now the patriarchs, maintained the tradition of family gatherings where stories were told and values reinforced. "Grandpa Ethan," asked one of the great-grandchildren, "why is our family different from others?" "Because we learned that a person's worth isn't in what they have or do, but in who they are," answered Ethan, echoing Dorothy's words. "And is that good?" "It's the most important thing in the world, my grandson." The Dorothy Williams Institute continued growing, benefiting thousands of people annually. Its methodology, based on recognizing natural talents and developing individual potential, was adopted by organizations across the country. "Great-great-grandma Dot saved much more than our family," said Nathan during one of the Institute's annual meetings. "She saved the dignity of thousands of people who found opportunities through our work." The family story became a case study in universities, an example of how decisions based on human values can generate profound and lasting social transformations. Professors of sociology, psychology, and management used the case as an example of transformational leadership, overcoming prejudice, and building solid family legacies. "The story of Brandon Mitchell and Dorothy Williams," wrote a researcher, "demonstrates how a single courageous decision can break cycles of prejudice and create waves of social transformation that extend for generations." Decades after the beginning of the story, the Mitchell-Williams House, as the family residence came to be known, became a leading center for social inclusion policies and talent recognition. The house's library, created in honor of Dorothy, housed thousands of similar stories collected over the years, talented people who had been recognized and developed regardless of their social background or academic training. "Every story here is proof that great-great-grandma Dot was right," said Claire, now the library's director. "Talent is everywhere. It just needs to be recognized and developed." The annual family gatherings became community events where Institute alumni, beneficiaries of the social programs, and family members would meet to celebrate the core values and plan new actions. "Our family has grown far beyond blood ties," observed Sarah during one of these gatherings. "Today, we are a community united by the same values." "That's exactly what Grandma Dot wanted," replied Emily. "A big family based on love and mutual respect." Each year, new projects were developed inspired by Dorothy's philosophy: community daycare centers, professional training programs, microcredit initiatives for talented entrepreneurs without access to traditional financing. "Great-great-grandma Dot planted a very small seed," said Gabriel, now the general coordinator of the family's social projects. "But from that seed grew an entire forest." The tradition of hiring employees based on demonstrated competence, not just formal qualifications, spread to other companies inspired by the Mitchell-Williams family's example. "How many other Dorothys have been discovered and developed thanks to the precedent you set?" asked a journalist during an interview with the family. "We hope there are thousands," replied Ethan. "Every talented person who gets a fair chance is a victory for the philosophy our Grandma Dot taught us." The original children's center, where Dorothy had worked for decades, became a model school that received visitors from across the country interested in learning its innovative methodologies. "The secret isn't the methods," explained the current principal, a former student of Dorothy's. "The secret is genuine love for the children and respect for their individuality." With each generation, The core values were reinforced through stories, practical examples, and especially through the living example of the family's older members. "Dad," said one of Gabriel's sons, "why do we always talk about great-great-grandma Dot if she died so long ago?" "Because she didn't die, son. She lives in every act of love, in every person we respect, in every talent we recognize." "How so?" "When you treat someone with kindness, no matter who that person is, great-great-grandma Dot lives on through you." The family's children grew up naturally with this perspective, without needing to learn not to have prejudices. For them, recognizing value in all people was something natural, not an achievement. "Grandpa Nathan," asked one of the great-granddaughters, "is it true that in the old days people were prejudiced against people like great-great-grandma Dot?" "Unfortunately, yes, my granddaughter. But our family helped show that was wrong." "I'm glad you showed that. It would be very sad if great-great-grandma Dot hadn't become part of our family." These conversations reinforced for the family's adults the importance of the legacy they had received and the responsibility to keep it alive. During the year-end holidays, when the whole family gathered, it was tradition for the oldest member to tell the original story of Brandon and Dorothy to the youngest ones. Once upon a time, there was a very rich businessman who had 2 babies who were always crying. The story would begin, following the format that had crystallized over the years. "And then, did a fairy godmother appear?" the younger children would always ask. "A very wise woman appeared who knew how to care for babies better than anyone in the world. And was she magical?" "She wasn't magical, she was special. Special because she had a lot of love in her heart." "Like us?" "Exactly like you." The story always ended with the same message. Anyone can be special if they have love in their heart and the opportunity to show their talents. 50 years after that first night when Dorothy calmed Ethan and Nathan, the family had become a small community of over 200 people, including biological, adoptive, and extended members, united by the same values. "If great-great-grandma Dot could see all this," said Claire, now a grandmother, "she would be amazed at the size of the family she helped create." "She can see," replied Gabriel, upholding the family tradition of faith, "and I'm sure she is proud." The Dorothy Williams Institute had become an international organization with projects in several countries, always based on the fundamental principles: recognition of natural talents, development of individual potential, and overcoming social barriers. The Dorothy Williams method, as it became known internationally, became a benchmark for social inclusion and human development programs. Universities from around the world sent researchers to study the case and understand how an individual decision had generated social transformations of such magnitude. "The Mitchell-Williams case," wrote an American sociologist, "proves that profound social changes can begin with courageous individual decisions based on fundamental human values." Each year, the Dorothy Williams Award was given to individuals or organizations that demonstrated excellence in recognizing talent and overcoming social prejudice. "This award is not ours," said Ethan during one of the ceremonies. "It belongs to all people who have the courage to recognize human worth wherever it manifests." The family library had become a research center on human development and social inclusion, housing thousands of documented cases of people who overcame social barriers through fair opportunities. "Each story here represents a transformed life," Claire would explain to visitors, "and each transformed life represents an entire family benefited." The methodologies developed by the family were incorporated into public policies, corporate programs, and educational initiatives in dozens of countries. "The legacy of Dorothy Williams transcends national borders," observed a European researcher. "It has become a global paradigm for social inclusion policies." During one of the last family gatherings that Ethan managed to attend before his passing at 92 years old, he offered a reflection that summarized the entire journey. "My dears, our story began with the desperation of a father who could not care for his children. It ends with an international community dedicated to recognizing and developing human talents." All because great-grandfather Brandon had the courage to recognize great-great-grandma Dot's worth, observed one of the great-grandchildren. "Exactly. One courageous decision based on the right values can change the world." "And it really did," everyone agreed. Now it is your responsibility to keep this legacy alive, not just in the organizations we created, but in every daily decision. We will keep it, Grandpa Ethan, they promised. I know you will. You carry in your blood the values that Grandma Dot taught us. Ethan lived to see the 5th generation of the family being born with the fundamental values already naturally incorporated. For these children, respecting all people and recognizing talents regardless of social background wasn't an achievement. It was something natural. That's how we know we've won, said Nathan at 90 years old. When values become natural, they no longer need to be taught. Grandma Dot managed it, agreed Ethan. She changed our family forever. In the final years of Ethan and Nathan, they dedicated themselves to recording in detail the entire family history, from the earliest days to the most recent accomplishments. It's important that future generations know exactly how it all began, Ethan would explain to the grandchildren, helping him with the documentation. So they never forget the sacrifices that were made, Nathan would add. And the victories that were won, Clara would complete. The family's historical archive became a cultural heritage of the city, preserving not only documents, but also video recordings of testimonies from Dorothy, Brandon, and all the main family members over the years. Our story must not be lost, said Gabriel during the archive's inauguration ceremony. It belongs not only to our family but to humanity. When Ethan and Nathan passed away, just months apart, the family was already prepared to maintain the legacy without depending on the physical presence of the patriarchs. They prepared us well, said Clara during Nathan's funeral. We know exactly what to do and how to continue. Great-great-grandma Dot, great-grandfather Brandon, Grandpa Ethan, and Grandpa Nathan live on in every decision we make based on the values they taught us, added Gabriel. The family's 6th generation was already being born when Ethan and Nathan passed away, ensuring the continuity of the values for at least a few more decades. Our babies are born into a family that already knows how to care for them with love, observed one of the great-great-granddaughters, a new mother. And they will grow up knowing they are special, but that everyone else is too, added another. The Dorothy Williams Institute continued to grow under the leadership of the new generations, always maintaining the fundamental principles but adapting the methodologies to contemporary challenges. Great-great-grandma Dot always said we must adapt to the times, but without losing the essential values, Clara would recall during board meetings. So, let's keep evolving, but always with love and respect at the center of everything, the other members would agree. 75 years after that first night when Dorothy calmed the twin babies, the family had transformed into an international network of people united by the same values, working in dozens of countries to recognize and develop human talent. If someone told this story 75 years ago, no one would believe it, said Gabriel, now the family's eldest patriarch. But it happened, replied Clara. Proof that miracles can happen when we make decisions based on love. And it will keep happening, added one of the great-grandsons, with every talented person who receives a fair opportunity. The Mitchell-Williams house had become an international symbol of overcoming prejudice and recognizing talent. It received visitors from all over the world interested in learning about the methodology developed by the family. What you have done here, said an African educator during a visit, is inspiring changes on our continent too. That is exactly what great-great-grandma Dot would like to hear, replied Clara, that love and respect have no borders. During the celebrations of the 75th anniversary of the Night of Miracles, as the family called that first night, thousands of people gathered to celebrate not only the family's history, but the universal values it represented. This is not just our party, said Gabriel during the main speech. It's a celebration for everyone who believes talent can be found anywhere. And for everyone who has the courage to recognize that talent, added Claire. And especially for everyone who understands that love is the only thing that really matters, finished one of the great-grandchildren. The celebration lasted 3 days, with activities that included talks on social inclusion, talent development workshops, cultural presentations, and most of all, lots of sharing of stories of overcoming adversity. Great-great-grandma Dot would be impressed with all this, said one of the great-great-granddaughters, observing the diverse crowd participating in the celebrations. She would be happy, corrected Gabriel, because she would see that her values have spread throughout the entire world. During the closing ceremony, a letter from Dorothy was read that had been kept to be opened only on this special occasion. She had written the letter years before her passing, foreseeing that the family would continue to grow and develop. My dear children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and all who have become part of this family of the heart, the letter said, if you are reading this, it means the values we planted together have continued to grow and spread. Always remember, we are not special because we are different, but because we are the same as everyone else in what truly matters, our capacity to love and be loved. Keep recognizing talents wherever they may be. Keep offering opportunities to those in need. Keep proving that love overcomes any prejudice. And most of all, keep being a family, not just among yourselves, but with everyone who crosses your paths with an open heart. With infinite love, Dorothy Williams, Grandma Dot forever. The reading of the letter brought tears to the entire audience, but it also renewed everyone's commitment to the core values. This letter is our moral constitution, declared Gabriel, our guide for all future decisions. And our proof that great-great-grandma Dot is still with us, added Claire, moved. The story of the Mitchell-Williams family, which had begun with the desperation of a widowed father and the compassion of a cleaning woman, had transformed into an international legacy of love, respect, and recognition of human worth. 80 years after that first night, when Dorothy entered the room of the crying twins and soothed them with genuine love, millions of people around the world had been helped by the values she helped plant. Great-great-grandma Dot proved that one person can truly change the world, said Gabriel during his last major public speech at 90 years old. Not through power or money, but through love and dedication. And we proved that this legacy can grow and perpetuate through the generations, added Claire. Now it is the responsibility of the next generations to continue this work, concluded Gabriel. The seventh generation of the family was already taking on leadership positions at the Dorothy Williams Institute and in the various social projects developed over the years. Our values are safe, said Claire, watching the young people work with the same dedication and love that had characterized the family for decades. Great-great-grandma Dot can rest in peace, agreed Gabriel. Her mission was successfully completed. The story that began with the cries of babies in a mansion in New York had become an international movement for recognizing talent and overcoming prejudice, touching lives on every continent. If anyone asks what our family's greatest achievement was, said Claire during one of the last family meetings with Gabriel, I would say it was proving that love is stronger than any social barrier, and that one courageous decision can change not just one life but millions of lives, finished Gabriel. Great-great-grandma Dot knew that from the beginning, observed one of the great-grandchildren. That's why she never gave up believing in people. And that's why we'll never give up either, everyone promised. When Gabriel passed away at 95, the family was already in its 8th generation, with over 1,000 direct and indirect members spread across the world, all united by the core values planted by Brandon and Dorothy. Uncle Gabriel fulfilled his mission, said Claire during the funeral. He kept the values alive and passed them on to the new generations. Now it's our turn, replied the younger ones. And then it will be your children's turn, added Claire. And so on forever, they all completed in unison. The 100th annual family reunion took place 100 years after that first magical night. Claire, at 98 years old and the last direct witness to the original events, gave the opening speech to over 5,000 participants from 70 different countries. My dear children of the heart, she began, using the expression that Dorothy always used, we are here to celebrate not just our family, but the triumph of human values over social prejudices. 100 years ago, no one could have imagined that a businessman's decision to trust his housekeeper to care for his children would result in a worldwide revolution of talent recognition. But it happened, and it will keep happening because we planted seeds that never stop growing. During the celebration, the International Dorothy Williams Monument was inaugurated, a work of art symbolizing hands of different colors and origins joining together to protect a child. This monument is not just to honor great-great-grandma Dot, explained the sculptor during the unveiling. It is to celebrate all people who have the courage to recognize human value regardless of appearances. The inauguration ceremony was broadcast live worldwide with simultaneous translations in 50 languages. Dorothy Williams's message, said the host, transcended linguistic, cultural, and geographical barriers to become a universal language, the language of love and respect. On the monument's plaque was engraved the phrase that had become the family's official motto: "A person's value lies in their heart, not in anything else." These words, said Claire during the ceremony, sum up everything we learned from great-great-grandma Dot and everything we want to pass on to the world. When Claire passed away, a few months after the centennial celebrations, she had fulfilled the promise made decades before, to keep the core values alive and ensure their transmission to future generations. Aunt Claire was our last direct link to the original events, said the new family patriarch during the funeral, but the values she passed on to us are our eternal link to great-great-grandma Dot and great-grandfather Brandon. The Dorothy Williams Institute had become the world's largest organization for talent recognition and social inclusion, operating in 120 countries and benefiting over 10 million people annually. Impressive numbers, said the Director General during the annual report. But they don't capture the true impact, the transformed lives, the reunited families, the discovered talents. The methodology developed by the family had been incorporated into the official policies of dozens of countries, influencing everything from educational systems to corporate human resources practices. The Dorothy Williams method, as it was known internationally, had become synonymous with excellence in human development and overcoming social barriers. Universities worldwide offered specialized courses in the methodology, always emphasizing that the technical aspects were secondary to the core values. "It's not possible to apply the Dorothy Williams method," one of the teachers explained, "without genuinely believing in the intrinsic value of every human being." Each year, thousands of graduates from the Institute spread across the world, carrying with them not just technical knowledge, but primarily a new perspective on human worth and individual potential. "We are ambassadors of great-great-grandma Dot's values," they said with pride. "Our mission is to plant seeds of love and respect wherever we go." 125 years after that first night, the story had become a legend, taught in schools worldwide as an example of how individual decisions can generate social transformations of historical magnitude. The story of Dorothy, as it was known in textbooks, had joined other classic narratives about human perseverance and the triumph of values over prejudice. Children of all nationalities grew up hearing the story of the cleaning lady who became a worldwide symbol of talent recognition, and the businessman who had the courage to break social conventions for the love of his children. "This story," wrote a historian, "proves that true heroes are not only those who make grand public gestures, but also those who make courageous decisions in their private lives." International Dorothy Williams Day, celebrated annually on the day she first calmed the twins, had become an official holiday in several countries, dedicated to reflection on human values and talent recognition. On this day, the Secretary-General of the United Nations traditionally declared, "We renew our commitment to the ideals of Dorothy Williams, to see value in every person, regardless of their origin or appearance." The celebrations included educational activities, awards for people and organizations demonstrating excellence in social inclusion, and especially moments of reflection on how to apply these values in daily life. The true meaning of this day, the president of the Dorothy Williams Institute always explained, is not in the formal ceremonies, but in every act of recognition and respect we practice in our daily lives. 150 years later, the 10th generation of the family continued to keep the original values alive, now adapted to the challenges of a completely new era, but always based on the fundamental principles of love and respect. "Times have changed," said the current patriarch during the annual family meeting, "but the human heart remains the same. That is why great-great-grandma Dot's values remain relevant. And they will remain relevant forever." Everyone responded, "Because they are eternal values." The story that began with tears of despair had transformed into a permanent source of hope and inspiration for all humanity, proving that an ordinary person, with love in their heart and the courage to act, can truly change the world. End of story. Now tell us what you thought of this moving journey of perseverance and love. Do you believe courageous decisions based on human values can truly transform the world? Share your opinion in the comments and tell us where you're watching from. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to leave your like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other inspiring narratives like this one. Your participation is essential for us to continue bringing these messages of hope and transformation to more people.